A long time ago, some wise man said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. More recently, a lot of wise guys on the internet have been saying, if you make your love a job, you will never stop working. I honestly do not know which one I agree with more. I spend a lot of time with the hobbies of my childhood. Video games, anime, and yes, even philosophy is on that list of childhood fancies. As I get older, a grander portion of my time is spent on responsibilities, balancing my house's budget, mowing the lawn, packing lunches, and answering the mail. None of these things are fun, and yet, in their dreariness, I still find a sense of satisfaction. The world of Death's Door is one of bright and fanciful colors. Growing pinks, verdant greens, and shining blues will characterize your time with this game, a fitting choice given the cute and cartoony characters and world design inspired by the whimsical charms of the 2D Zelda games. Yet the game starts in a gray and dreary world, devoid of that whimsy. The first area of the game is a morose, dilapidated trolley station, an abandoned bar and movie theater, a broken security booth manned by another crow clearly uninterested in whether you come or go. The empty desk and broken tiles of what appears to be an old bank is apparently your place of work. The entire space screams of whimsy that has been long since lost. In botching your first assignment, you are informed of the stakes of this failure to complete your assignment. You, unlike all of the other crows, have now become mortal. To shut your personal door to the outside world, you must retrieve your quarry and return home. Only, as you give chase to the old crow that stole your harvest, in catching him, you find that moments prior, he attempted to use that soul to open another door, the titular Death's Door, though it still remains shut. As you venture forth to reap the souls of other immortal beings, souls hopefully grand enough to force the door open, you discover that not only these grand souls, but every living thing in the world is technically deathless. The game's story is reveling in its co-equal inspiration of Dark Souls with its narrative. Along the way, most of the characters you meet are happy just living their lives, while others are growing weary of the eternal drudgery. A pot-headed man seeks to end his immortality by returning his head to normal. Forest people that only wish to play the songs of their heritage. A gravedigger who seeks to be reaped. A bard only looking for new adventures and new songs to write. What sets Death's Door apart from other game narratives is not so much the characters you meet, but the ones you fight at the end of your journeys. Even as you kill each boss, even as they are clearly antagonistic to our goals, we pause to hold a funeral for each boss as we kill them, paying respects to who they were as a whole, rather than just who they were to us during the limited time in which we hunt them. Yet it is exactly that respect for death that this part of our journey is meant to overcome. We are killing these immortal people not for any retribution for their wrongdoings or transgressions. It is merely in the interest of our own life and the life of the old crow, which is why what happens next is so devastating. When we open Death's Door, behind it is a vast, infinite nothing. The barren whiteness staccatoed only by death themselves. Death explains that all the souls, even the one we are trying to get back, are gone once they cross the threshold. That life needs to end to be recycled into new life. The recycling of life is by no means a novel concept in storytelling. To the old crow, this revelation is devastating. He pursued this one goal single-mindedly for his entire life, thinking, as soon as I set this one thing straight, everything will go back to normal and I can figure out what to do next. Only to discover that there is no next. This was their one shot to live their life, and they blew it on the pursuit of this soul. In their ignorance, they used all the time they had on their job. What gives your work meaning? That you find it fun and enjoyable? That it has a real impact on the world? That it helps people? That it is connected to your values? That it allows you to provide for your family? I have had a strained relationship with work. As a person on the autism spectrum, a population of neurodivergent people who frequently struggle to find any employment or career in the increasingly social service industry-driven economy of the United States, the necessities of conforming to a workplace culture to maintain employment, let alone seek career advancement, are sometimes prohibitively difficult. I have always thrived in work that allows me to work alone. When I have been allowed to direct myself, I have always been successful. But being successful at my work is not the same thing as a superior or boss being satisfied with how I work. I was a straight-A student with multiple accolades, yet various circumstances required that I abandoned those dreams of academia or becoming a lawyer that characterized my entire time in school. What was left for me were bullshit jobs. Junk work, jobs designed to fail. Bussing tables working in Beverly Hills, delivering pizzas where the job is classified as part-time, but the shifts would be assigned for 4 hours and run as long as 12 hours. Being the sole custodian of a 2-floor gym with a pool and a sauna, and expecting to clean the whole thing each day without once getting in the way of a person wanting to exercise. Even when I did get decent jobs, my inability to conform, to not be on the receiving end of threats, violent assaults by entitled co-workers with seniority, lost me a lot of jobs. People frequently interpreted my inability to conform as acting superior. When I decided to do rideshare full-time, it was the first time I could succeed without bullshit circumstances causing me to lose my job. That is, until you get a string of entitled customers who know they can use the systems of the app to threaten and exploit you. I currently seem to have lucked my way into a job that suits me, that allows me to work entirely independently, yet without the instability of working for myself. Yet it is precisely in a field of work that I hated when I was trying to find and maintain work, human resources. I like this job. I plan to work this job for as many years as I can. A little voice in the back of my head always says, "You'll never get another chance like this. Endure." What must it be like for those people with so much wealth that they could live modestly for dozens of lifetimes and never worry? Why do they choose to live more expensive lives? Why do they choose to need more money and more work? It is that voice, that desire to quit, to be free from jobs of any kind, that still plays in the background of my mind. Another group of crows, led by a Diogenes-like trash-clad crow, were the remnants of a massive walkout of the Grey World. After witnessing the abandonment of a murder of crows in the field, these crows chose to no longer work as reapers of the enigmatic Lord of Doors. They formed a little crow commune and would willingly wait for when the bell would eventually toll. No sense in spending an eternity working for someone else when you could work for yourself and just wait for death right now, right? At the same time, we learned more about the lineage of our employers, the Lords of Doors. As we explore the mausoleum, we both read the epithets of their gravestones and speak to their ghosts. The little jokes about better working conditions, benefits, and holidays earned slowly after centuries of negotiating with different lords solidifies the allegory of miserable and meaningless work made necessary by artificial systems like capital. In case the aesthetics of having a desk job were not blatant enough for the audience to take notice, what makes the current Lord of Doors so different from the others is that he refuses to abdicate his throne. While the previous lords made a deal with death to take over a portion of death's labor in exchange for longer lives, it is a contract each Lord of Doors chooses to inherit in exchange for more time to achieve their goals. When each new Lord of Doors is made, they are informed both of their duty and of the day they will die. Rather than choosing a goal or value of his life, the current Lord of Doors chose to focus only on stopping that fated day from coming, doing so by shutting himself away and hoarding every reaped soul, not allowing the wealth of soul energy to recycle through the world, by not allowing new lives to be born. The Lord of Doors pursued this one goal, his immortality, so single-mindedly that when faced with the reality that his plan may be foiled, he realized that this was his one shot at life, and he blew it on the pursuit of this one goal. Despite being fully aware, he used all the time he had trying to avoid doing his job. You know, I spend a lot of time on this YouTube hobby. While it helps a little bit here and there, I have somewhat had to accept that my small moments in the sun are not going to propel me into a career YouTuber, and that's okay. Even as I still occasionally fantasize about doing this instead of my job, so long as I enjoy expressing thoughts on video, I will happily keep making them. Perhaps it is even for the best that this avenue for engaging more deeply with the art I love never becomes work. Workaholic that I am, having a career that I do not really care about affords me the luxury of compartmentalizing, of being able to turn away from the dreary realities of responsibility, locked behind its neat little door, and view the things I actually care about without the lens of capital on the back of my mind. The ultimate goal of Death's Door ends up being to defeat the Lord of Doors, to put the cycle of life and death back where it was always meant to be. Just as the gravekeeper spends his days eulogizing the dead, and his nights mourning his lost friends and the curse of his immortality, a world of endless labor is a world of endless torment. A long time ago, human life was just as laborious. The purpose of the labor, however, was to work just as much as you needed to spend the rest of your time resting. Things that are restful for the soul. Different things for all the differences of people. Music and dancing, illustration and sculpture, drinking and fighting, architecture and chemistry. This was culture. But at some point along the way, those people who found commerce to be that thing that gave their souls joy were able to put everything and everyone else into that one little box. Commerce didn't make all of those things possible then, but commerce is most often a requirement to do those things now. The message of this game is to remember death rather than avoid it. People were never meant to live for their work. Whether you hate your job or you have a passion for your work, remember that there is so much more worth to you and your life than any job could contain. Life is far more about reveling in those moments of rest, even if it means losing out on some opportunity. You will lose far more by sacrificing rest to work. When you remember death, you remember to rest. When death closes a window, it opens a door. Thank you for watching, and stay true.